the leadoff guy getting on base, then I think he won't have as much trouble with his pitch count and wouldn't have to work out so many difficult innings.
That's a lot of pitching out of the stretch when the first guy is on with that frequency. And Roberts jumps all over the first pitch, and Jose Guillen able to find it. He had to battle the shade and the sunlight, but makes the catch right in front of the warning track. And Brian Roberts, who's done so well against Gil Mesh in his career, nearly driving one out of the ballpark, but it's a long out, and brings up Cesar Izturis. Royals defense, DeJesus crisp, and Guillen in the outfield with Tian Aviles, Callaspo, and Butler. Around the horn, John Buck is behind the plate for Gil Mesh. Another switch hitter, Cesar Izturis. We just saw his younger brother, Maicer Izturis, who was a utility infielder with the Angels. One ball, one strike. Gil really battled his last time out. Gave up a couple of runs early with 2 outs. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And then there was that disputed and controversial inside the park home run hit off the bat of Howie Kendrick that hit Jose Guillen's glove. And the Royals just found out today that they have won an appeal with the league, overruling the official score. So that is no longer an inside the park home run. And that eliminates a couple of earned runs from Gil Mesh's line.
Well, this is that play you're talking about, Ryan. It's down the right field line, and Kendricks went over. The ball went off of Jose Guillen's glove. He got there in plenty of time, and the ball went down in the right field corner, and Kendricks circled the bases for an inside the park home run. What was amazing about that is there was no doubt in that official scorer's mind, because as soon as Kendrick hit the home plate, all the fireworks start going off.
3-2 on Izturis. Well, and the official score didn't want to take away from the euphoria of the fans, although I think, I could be wrong, but if they had ruled that an error, I don't think they would have set the stadium on fire, and I don't think anyone would have demanded their money back and said they would never, ever watch an Angels game in person again if that scoring was changed.
Well, I agree, because if you watch Kendrick when he was on his way to first base, it was like a casual jog down the line, like he expected the ball to be caught, and he was as surprised as anybody when he saw the third base coach waving him around.
Left side, Tian and Aviles. Aviles taking charge. Izturis is the second out. Gorgeous night, 71 degrees. Game started at 7:11 Central Daylight Time. Official time and temp presented by the Parking Spot. Easy to spot, easy to park. The Parking Spot at KCA. And speaking of gorgeous, here's Joel Goldberg.
Well, guys, it is packed up here on the party deck. By the way, if anybody wants a Tiffany & Company bag, you can bring that home for you. I wanted to talk about Gil Mesh real quick. Of course, he and Zach Greinke came home early with that late night flight. And with that, Ryan, let's go back to you.
Hey, Joel, you've been hanging around me too long.
2-out stories. That's what it's all about.
Billy Butler will hit third. Mike Jacobs hitting fourth, so Jose Guillen moving down to fifth. Mark Tian, who's been batting third most of the year, will hit sixth, followed by Cayaspo, Buck, and Aviles. And Coco Crisp, who has 6 hits and 18 career at-bats against Jeremy Guthrie, leads off and takes strike one. Coco hit .333 in Anaheim and Oakland, stole 4 bases, so he has 9 on the year, but only scored 2 runs. In fact, Coco Crisp and David DeJesus, who spent most of the road trip batting first and second, combined to score just 3 runs.
And that's got to change if you're going to score. Your first 2 guys really set the tone for the middle of your order. And if your middle of your order is always batting with nobody on base, then those solo home runs don't get you anywhere. But if you can get a 2 and 3 run home early in the game, it really helps.
Guthrie just misses the outside. Crisp and Guthrie played briefly together with the Indians. Coco going to the Boston Red Sox before the 2006 season. Nice play by Guthrie, looking like Brian Bannister did last night. So he gets the speedy Coco Crisp, 1 down, and now the Kia scouting report on 30-year-old Jeremy Guthrie.
Well, the Orioles really feel like he got behind by playing in WBC in terms of his conditioning. But you look at the 61 first inning runs allowed, then the key would be to get to him early. And that to me, that would be the key for the Royals, is get to him early and get him out of the game early, because you really get his pitch count up if you give up that many runs in the first inning. You got to have a high pitch count by the time you get to the 5th.
Ball 1 on David DeJesus. Well, he's going about 6 innings per start and about 102 pitches per start. So that certainly isn't a low pitch count guy. David drives it to right, but down around the end of the bat, Markakis makes the play. 2 up, 2 down for the Royals in the first. Now let's take a look at the Orioles defensively. Nolan Reimold making his major league debut in left field with PA and Markakis. Mora is Turris, Roberts, and Huff. And former Royal Greg Zahn is behind the plate. The Orioles are having an awful time right now with their outfielders. Adam Jones has the sore hamstring. An excellent young player who's off to a good start. Luke Scott has a sore shoulder. So Reimold making his major league debut, and PA playing in center. Billy hit .235 on the trip with 1 RBI.
I think that kind of goes back to everybody on the trip seemed like they were hitting with nobody on base, and then the times they did have men on base, it was 2 outs, and that's really the toughest hit to get in baseball. So they need to start giving themselves some opportunities when the first and second, no outs, first and second, 1 out, but everything's been first and second, 2 outs, and they just haven't been as fortunate as they were, say, in Minnesota when they got those 2 big 2-out base hits.
David has been spending a lot of time with Kevin Seitzer the past couple days. Seitz trying to get David back on track. David just 1 out of 18 on the trip. It's 2-2 on Butler.
Another thing too, Ryan, is when you look at Butler, Jacobs, and Jose Guillen batting behind each other, you don't have any speed there, and you don't have guys that can steal bases. All those guys are going to have to swing the bat, and these are not guys that Trey Hillman would normally put a hit and run on with. So that's why it's crucial that your number 1 and 2 hitter gets on base so these guys can hit with men on base.
Still 2-2 on Billy. Billy would not be your prototypical number 3 hitter. We talked about last night the different spots in the batting order. Number 3 hitter usually has more speed. Billy certainly has the combination of batting average and power that you'd like to see from your number 3 hitter.
Well, the one thing he can do, he can situational hit, and he would be the one of those 3 guys I named. He would be the one guy that Trey could probably hit and run with, and they have the back control to get the ball to where he needs to get it to. But you typically like to see a 3, 4, 5 hitter hitting with a chance to put the team on the board early in the game.
After fouling off 3 in a row, it's full count on Billy. He is seeing Jeremy Guthrie for the first time. And having a good at bat. Guthrie has not won in over a month. You have to go back to April the 11th when he beat Tampa Bay. In his last 5 starts since, 0-3 with an ERA over 6. So he's looking to get back on track. It's like the Royals offense is looking to get back on track. Another 3-2. Had a play. Two first-round draft picks hooking up. Billy for the Royals, Guthrie for the Indians back in 2002 out of Stanford. Also spent some time at BYU during his college days. And Billy having a long plate appearance. He has fouled off 6, and he's about to see his 11th pitch in this plate appearance.
And this would be, in Kevin Seitzer's eyes, this would be a quality plate appearance where he sees a lot of pitches, fouls a lot of balls off, but he can really, in this type of at bat, he can go back and give the other guys kind of a scouting report on how the ball's moving.
Another foul ball. So Guthrie hoping for a quick 1-2-3 inning. He got Coco on a ground ball back to the mound, to Jesus on a fly ball to right, but now has to throw his 12th pitch to Butler, and Billy fouls it away. That's 8 foul balls for Butler in this at bat.
Well, Jeremy Guthrie's really given Billy some good pitches to hit in this at bat, and if you're really swinging good, then you would have centered a couple of those and done something with them. So a lot of times you foul off good pitches down the middle, and a good pitcher will come back and make a good pitch, and you go back frustrated because you had so many pitches to hit in this at bat.
Finally on the ground, and a long throw from his Turris. He gets it right on the money. Royals down 1-2-3. Crowd still filing into Kauffman Stadium on Ladies' Night at the K. Ryan Lefebvre along with Frank White. And once again, let's check in with Joel Goldberg.
A Gil Mesh story, wasn't it? All right, let's get back to that. It's safe because there are not 2 outs. But I was talking to Gil today, and of course, you guys mentioned last night in the broadcast that Gil and Zach came back early so they wouldn't have that late night flight that arrived at 4:20 in the morning to Kansas City. I said, Gil, what do you do on a night where you're just hanging out? He said, well, what else would I do? I watch the Royals. He said, I watch Fox Sports Kansas City. He watched the whole game. He watched Banny. So how late were you up? He said, I might have stayed up a little later than I wanted to because I was watching the post-game show. No, you didn't watch the post-game show, Gil. Yeah, I saw them turn the lights out behind you. So Gil was supporting Fox Sports Kansas City and his teammates last night and still much better rested than the rest of us, guys.
All right, Joel. Well, if he watched last night, he saw Brian Bannister dominate for 5 innings. Gave the A's next to nothing. Then the shoulder stiffened up. Got some pitches up in the 6th and then had to leave early. And by the end, it was not a contest with the A's winning 7-2. So Gil knows tonight his role as the ace to come in and stop this losing streak. He gets a ground ball from Aubrey Huff right to Alberto Callaspo, and Gil has retired the first 4. Here are tonight's league leaders, brought to you by your Kansas City area Toyota dealers. Fewest home runs allowed per 9 innings pitched. Now Gil had a home run erased because the league overruled the official score in Anaheim. So Zach Greinke and Gil Mesh, top 2 in the American League, followed by Shane Lukes. The Royals saw him during that Anaheim series. And the Royals, as a pitching staff, and this is starters and relievers, have allowed the fewest home runs. The Orioles, on the other hand, have allowed the most home runs. It's 0-2 on veteran Melvin Mora. He doesn't seem to be too pleased with that last call from home plate umpire James Hoy.
Well, Gil very rarely throws fastballs right down the middle of the plate. He throws that borderline fastball that has a little hop right at the end. He gets a lot of foul balls on his fastball. And then he's got that hard curveball and cutter that he can occasionally, there's a changeup in there, but he's primarily, everything he throws pretty much is on the firm side.
Curveball is pulled foul. 3 starts ago, Gil had to leave early against the Toronto Blue Jays here at Kauffman Stadium because of a tight lower back, but that didn't give him any problems in his last 2 starts. He beat Minnesota on May the 3rd, throwing 116 pitches, and then taking the loss on Friday, he threw 120 pitches. Still 1 ball, 2 strikes on Mora. The Orioles have a few hitters in the lineup tonight that have done well against Mesh, like Melvin Mora. Tien dives. He's got it to his feet quickly. And a perfect throw to Billy Butler.
You know, we said all along how comfortable Mark Tien's looked at third base, and here's a curveball and Mora hits in the hole, and Mark gets a good jump on it. Does a great job not only stopping the ball, but getting to his feet and making a strong throw.
That's got to feel good for Mark. His error last night led to 5 unearned runs in the 7th inning. That inning was not all his fault. There were also 3 walks and a hit batter in the inning. Now Ty Wigington, 2 balls, no strikes.
The one thing that Mark's done at third base, he looks really comfortable, and that was really a tough play for him, going back to his backhand side. A lot of overspin on the ball, and it really would have been a tough play at first base had he caught the ball.
Off the end of the bat, squibs it up the middle, and all the spin, it kicks out of Callaspo's glove for an infield single. So the Orioles have their first base runner. This week on Fox Saturday Baseball, Grady Sizemore leads the Indians into Tampa Bay to take on Evan Longoria, the defending champion, American League champion Rays. Fox Saturday Baseball returns this week at 3 p.m. Central.
But Cleveland's up 5-0 in Tampa Bay right now, Ryan.
Figure that Indians team is going to figure it out eventually with all the talent on that roster. Here's ball 1-2. Nolan Reimold. This is his first major league at bat. Second round draft pick for the Orioles in 2005 out of Bowling Green. Hill falls behind 2-0. So he may look cool on the outside, but there are butterflies fighting for position on the inside. And he lines it to Aviles in his first big league at bat, but out, and the Orioles scoreless in the second. The new Kauffman Stadium. Let's take a look at tonight's You Call It, presented by Sprint. Where has KC had more success against the Orioles? And you have four choices. Municipal Stadium, where the Royals began. Memorial Stadium, where the Orioles used to play. Now the newer ballparks, Kauffman Stadium and Camden Yards. So this is more of a trivia question than it is an opinion poll. So A, Municipal Stadium in Kansas City, B, Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, C, Kauffman Stadium, D, Camden Yards. Text 432-432, enter keyword Royals, followed by a space in your answer. Standard text rates apply. Mike Jacobs, who had 2 home runs in the Oakland series, bats 4th tonight, sandwiched in between Butler and Guillen. Unfortunately, both of those home runs coming with nobody on base. On the road trip, 4 hits and those 2 RBIs on the solo home runs. And a rocket to Brian Roberts, who makes a great play and throws from his knees to get Jacobs.
A ball like that, that's the one you say, let me keep it off my lips, because that is hot, and he's one of the few second basemen that don't play deep in the infield. And Mike Jacobs gets the ball down and in like he likes it, and Brian Roberts did a great job staying with that high hop. Just made it look easy getting the ball to first base. Oh, that's what nothing to this here. Just get it over there.
But because of the angle, if he didn't catch it with his glove, it wasn't going to hit his lips.
Well, he's lucky he didn't get in front of it. So he got up to the side so he can see it longer.
0-1 now on Jose Guillen. 3 hits, no RBIs. So when you look at why the Royals scored only 9 runs in the 5 games. We already mentioned Crisp and DeJesus combining to score just 3 runs. Billy Butler 1 RBI, Mike Jacobs 2 RBIs, Jose Guillen no RBIs, and Mark Teahen a couple of runs driven in. Into right field, so down in the count 0-2. Guillen goes to the opposite field, and the Royals have their first base runner, 1 on 1 out. Mark Teahen coming up.
That's always a good piece of hitting when you get down 0-2 and you get a fastball out over the plate, and he did a great job just standing with it, staying on top of it, didn't try to pull it, and that's what I call a professional hitter right there. He's one of those kind of hitters, Ryan, that can really adjust pitch to pitch, where a lot of young guys have to adjust at bat to an at bat.
Kind of shortened up too. It looked like almost a 3/4 swing. Didn't completely let it go.
Well, that's why I say how important it is for your guys in the middle to hit with men on base. So that's how they're driving their runs. If everything is solo home runs and all their base hits with nobody on, then they're just not going to do the job that they're capable of doing unless those first 2 guys get on and the back of the order brings the offense back to the middle.
1-1 on Mark Teahen, who goes from 3rd to 6th in the batting order tonight. Is Turris, Roberts, Huff. Royals are done in the 2nd inning. With breast cancer in 1998, now a board member for the Susan G. Komen for the Cure and a tireless advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. Firm believer that early detection saves lives, and she is sitting in the Buck O'Neil legacy seat at tonight's game. So welcome, Mary Lou. Also, fans, don't forget to nominate others who make a difference in our community for the All-Stars Among Us promotion, sending one worthy Royals fan to St. Louis for the 2009 All-Star Game. Fans can visit royals.com/community to submit nominations. Former Royal Greg's on. To the right side, Callaspo near the lip of the grass, throws him out. Well, Gil Mesh has retired 7 of 8.
Well, Callaspo, this is about as calm and collected as I've seen him. I think he's starting to get a lot more comfortable at second base. So you can see how he gets that ball, takes his time, and really sets his feet and makes a nice play. There you go. And one of the key things with playing second base and making that play is knowing when to do it with one hand and when to try to fight and get both those hands down there. So he did a real good job making the catch, looking relaxed, getting his feet set, and making a nice throw.
Now, girls' night at the K meant that the first 20,000 gals got a hat, but this fellow, I presume, wanted a hat. And look at the lengths, literally, he went to get himself a cap. PA lines out to Butler, 2 down in the 3rd inning.
I just don't know what to say.
That's right up there with, out west in California and Arizona, they have the carpool lane, and some people will put a mannequin in the front seat, so they can use the carpool lane.
I've heard of that, yes.
Maybe we shouldn't jump to conclusions. That might be her natural hair. 1-0 on Brian Roberts, who swung at the very first pitch from Gil Mesh and flied out to the warning track in right field. Roberts, one of 3 switch hitters in the lineup, along with Cesar Izturis and Greg Zahn. The Orioles' best hitters are left-hand batters, and Gil Mesh has actually done better against the lefties this year. Roberts will bat left-handed as a switch hitter. Nick Markakis bats left-handed. Aubrey Huff hits left-handed. So this might be playing right into Gil's hands.
Well, that's true. One thing Brian Roberts does, he works the count, and he's not afraid to take a walk. And he came up the first time, hit the first pitch, and this time he's really making Gil work deep into the count.
Hit hard off the tarp. 3 balls, 2 strikes. I would think that the numbers that Gil has against lefties might be a result of that cut fastball that breaks in on the hands of the left-hand batters.
Well, that was my thinking. Or when he gets ahead, he can throw it to the back leg and get the strikeout.
That's hit hard again towards right field, but it's going to split Guillen and Crisp. Roberts can really run, and he's going to hold with a double as Guillen gets it back to the infield quickly.
Well, that was a fastball that Gil just left up out over the plate, and Roberts got those quick hands and really turned the ball around in the right center field. It was like a changeup. He just left up in the zone. And, on this road trip, we were watching the Royals pitchers throw changeups. Most of them were left up. Normally they would go down like they're supposed to go down, but we saw a lot of changeups on the road trip that just stayed up out over the plate and got hit for base hit.
Is there any other pitch like the changeup or the splitter that has the same intent that can be so, there's no gray area, it can be so good if it's thrown well and can be so bad if it's not thrown well?
Well, the only pitch that comes to mind is the split finger. That's another pitch that should go down, but when it doesn't go down, it just hangs right out over the plate and say hit me, and that's kind of what it does. But I think that Gil has a lot of success with his two-seamer against lefties that go down and get them to roll over and hit ground ball.
Ball 1 now on Izturis. Popped out to Aviles in the first inning. Past Gil, Callaspo charges in and gets Izturis to end the inning. No score to the middle of the 3rd. the right taste that never fills you up. The difference is drinkability. And by AT&T, switch to the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T, your world delivered. Alberto Callaspo leading off against Jeremy Guthrie. Royals with one hit in the first 2 innings. And Jose Guillen single in the second, but then Tien grounded into a double play. Big bounce for Aubrey Huff at first base. One down in the third. Coming up on Saturday during this Orioles series, sponsored by Sprint, first 20,000 fans will receive this stadium replica of the new K, thanks to Fox Sports Kansas City. Part of a 4-piece collectible set. Also includes 3 Royals Hall of Fame statues. That's coming up on Saturday. Get your tickets now. Those tickets are few and far in between as far as what's remaining. There are tickets available, but you don't want to wait much longer. Tomorrow is a sellout, and Saturday is very close to being the same. Two 2-0 on John Buck, who was 0 for 10 on the trip, and off to that great start now has a .212 batting average. Three 3-0. Guthrie has been very stingy with his walks so far. Only 14 in 44 innings. 3-1 to Buck. And the Orioles don't really have great pitching numbers. We mentioned they're 12th in the league in ERA. They've given up the most home runs, but they have the third fewest strikeouts. So they've been hit hard, but they will throw strikes. And Buck into center field for a one-out single. So that snaps the 0 for 10.
But John did a great job. There's a two-seamer going down and in, and he really stayed down on it and hit it back through the middle. Where he get in trouble on that pitch is if he roll over and hit a ground ball. So he really got inside that one and did a great job staying inside the ball and driving it back through the middle.
Now Mike Aviles, who was 1 out of 9 on the trip. You had brought up before, Frank, that when you were struggling, you would ask the manager to use more hit and runs. Now we have someone at first base who doesn't run well in John Buck. Mike Aviles, who's hitting .202. Guthrie throws strike one.
Well, what the hit and run does is forces you to cut your swing down and forces you to try to see the ball a little bit longer, and you have an idea of what you want to do with the ball. Now, this is part of Trey Hillman's lineup. It's where he can actually get some things done other than just sit back and look for the long ball with Aviles hit with Buck on first and Coco and David following him. So if you're going to do anything creative, this is where you would do it right here.
And now that becomes very unlikely with Aviles down, no balls, 2 strikes. One and 2. Guthrie lost his last time out. That was Friday against the Yankees, and he was the victim of a CC Sabathia shutout. Guthrie allowed 3 runs in 6 innings, but he struck out 8. 2-2 now on Aviles. Mentioned he's a former first-round pick of the Indians and never really stuck with the Cleveland club at the big league level. He was more of a thrower then. Good arm. He's become more of a pitcher, meaning that he has a better feel for the strike zone, better feel for when to add and subtract his pitches, and he's had success with the Orioles. Here's the Roadrunner Turbo speed pitch comparison, and both Guthrie and Mesh have hit 96, so there's the good arm. You can double your speed with Roadrunner Turbo from Time Warner Cable. Aviles into shallow right field. Markakis can't make the play, but he might have a play at second base, and he does. So Markakis, very similar to Torrey Hunter over the weekend, coming up and giving no sign whether he's going to catch the ball or not, leaving the runner in no man's land. So that cost Mike Aviles a base hit. It's a 9-6 fielder's choice.
Well, this is a tough play here, but you got to be able to try to see the spacing between the fielder and the ball, and that's a nice short hop. So John Buck really was in no man's land right from the beginning on that play.
So instead of 2 on, 1 out, it's Aviles at first for Coco Crisp, who grounded back to Guthrie in the first inning. I guess there's also the fear, if you're the runner, you don't want to go too far, because if Markakis catches that ball, he's got a lot of momentum coming forward, and that's a pretty short throw back to first base.
Well, it is, and when you're in no man's land like that, you know it's going to be a do or die play. Sometimes you just got to make a decision. You know, you got better than just staying out there. You just say, well, okay, I'll gamble it. He won't catch it. And in John's case, he just stuck there, didn't really know what he was going to do, and he had to let the ball hit the ground. And if he doesn't fumble the ball, then really he was just really stuck right there, not knowing really what to do, and therefore the outfielder had the advantage. The only thing he could have hoped for there was him not to catch the ball clean.
Two 2-0 on Coco.
And we talk a lot about base running and how some guys are good at it, some guys aren't good at it, but if you talk to most of the guys who played the game a long time, coached the game a long time, most of them will tell you base running is the last thing that players get, because it's one thing you can't teach. You can sit there and you tell them what they ought to do, but it's real instinctive base running, because you have to be able to read the balls off the bat. You have to be able to get the jumps and read the angles of the outfielders.
PA was shallow, so a long run for him. He has great speed, but he won't get it. And with 2 outs, Crisp drives Aviles home and has his American League leading 5th triple. That ball just kept carrying.
Well, the flags are blowing toward the left center field alley, and Coco just stayed on that ball, a fastball away, and just drove to the left center field. Another big 2-out base hit for the Royals.
And now David DeJesus flied out to right in the first inning. One ball and no strikes. Talked about it last night in Oakland, how David last year was the best in the major leagues hitting with runners in scoring position, and that factored into the Royals' decision, at least during the offseason, to consider batting him 3rd this year. But this year, he's hitting 194 with runners in scoring position.
A lot of times I can see 2 outs where a guy may have trouble racking up a high batting average with 2 outs and men in scoring position, but a lot of times when a man's on third base and less than 2 outs, you really don't have to get a base hit. You know, you got 6 ways. You know, you can bunt. You got the speed. You got second and short, playing deep. You got 3 outfielders. You can sacrifice flies. So there's a lot of ways you can score runs without getting an out. The base hit is the icing on the cake. So in a hitter in that situation really should go up there not trying to get a base hit, but just trying to take what the defense is giving them and come away with an RBI.
Well, we saw Sean Figgins do that on Sunday afternoon, putting the Angels in front 4-3, laying down a bunt. 1-2 on DeJesus with 2 down in the 3rd inning. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
You can really help your team if you realize that they're not swinging the bat well. We got a man on second base. How am I going to get him to third base? So even if you put a good swing on the ball, hit a line drive to first, line drive to second, you still haven't gotten the job done. So if you're not swinging the bat well, if you can bunt, just bunt the ball. The manager really doesn't care how you get it done. He just wants you to get it done.
And if you want to be selfish, you don't lose an at-bat if you lay down a sacrifice bunt. DeJesus deep into the right field corner, No chance for Markakis. It's a fair ball. Royals lead 2-0, and DeJesus comes through with 2 outs.
The one thing we talked about with David on the road trip was when he got in trouble is when he broke down on the backside. He needed to keep his upper body straight and rotate at the same time on his backside. Otherwise, a pitch like that, he would have got under it and popped it up, but he really stayed down through the ball and really put a good swing on that ball, no land.
Now, here's the at-bat I want to see, because Billy Butler saw 13 pitches in the first inning against Jeremy Guthrie. Now, that was the first ever plate appearance for Butler against Guthrie, but he got a whole season worth of experience in that one at-bat. And he tried to slice one to the opposite field, but that's foul off the barrier wall.
And the one thing about that long at bat, and even with that pitch there, they're good pitches to hit. He's just not squaring them up right now.
A long first inning, and 13 of those were against Billy Butler. Only faced 3 in the second, and now a long inning for Guthrie in the third. And another good swing, and it's no balls, 2 strikes.
I mean, he's big. If you just look at Billy's face, you can tell he's really frustrated. I mean, he's had great pitches to hit all night, and they just fouled all of them off. So that might indicate that Guthrie got some late life on his fastball or a good tilt on his breaking ball. He's not squaring the ball up.
One ball, 2 strikes. Guthrie got Callaspo to ground out to first. Buck singled, and then Aviles thought he had singled to right, but Markakis threw Buck out at second base, and you thought that took some of the wind out of the Royals' sails. But two out RBI extra base hits from Chris with a triple, and DeJesus with a double. And now Billy has even the count at 2-2. In 2 plate appearances, Billy has fouled off 10 pitches against Guthrie. And Guthrie strikes him out with a slider down and away. The Royals get 2. Coco Crisp with his American League leading 5th triple, driving in Mike Aviles, and then Crisp scoring on a DeJesus double. 2-0 Royals, thanks to a couple of 2-out RBIs from Coco Crisp and David DeJesus, Ryan Lefevre, along with Frank White, and a special guest, Bob Watson, former Major League player, and now the Vice President of Standards
and on-field operations.
On-field operations, which means many, many things.
Yeah, I wear many hats, is what it means.
But the hat you're wearing on this particular visit to Kansas City is to go over the ground rules.
Yes, one of my responsibilities, I set the ground rules for all parks in the major leagues. And you have done just tremendous work here on your outfield. The fans here definitely have to be very, very pleased, and I know the players are. And I wanted to make sure the ground rules were right.
Gil Mesh pitching to Nick Markakis, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Now, I learned something over dinner tonight, visiting with you and Frank, that Kauffman Stadium is renovated. We're considering it the new Kauffman Stadium now, and some ground rules might change because of the new configuration. But it's not the team that establishes the ground rules. It's Bob Watson that establishes the ground rules.
Well, let's put it this way. You know, for years you used to hear book rules or the ground rule double, ground rules. Okay. All I've done, I've modernized it a little bit, and I call it the universal rule. Okay. All 30 parks have basically the same ground rules, except for 2 or 3, maybe 4, unique to your ballpark. So for years on the back of a lineup card, when you see them exchanging lineups, they would go over the ground rules because they were printed on the back of the card. Well, now, instead of having 8 ground rules, there's only 2 or 3. And the universals are on the dugout wall and in umpires' rooms and in the manager's office.
And on top of getting on top of the tarp.
Aubrey Huff drives one to deep right field, and Guillen at the wall, and it lands just over the wall and into the Pepsi party porch. And Aubrey Huff gets the Orioles on the scoreboard with his 7th home run of the year, and that makes it a 2-1 game. Now, there are some minor issues dealing with New Kauffman Stadium. You came out and you've walked the ballpark, you've walked the outfield, and there is something that's unique now to New Kauffman Stadium as opposed to before the renovation.
Yeah, you have some high and low walls here. Like in left field above the AT&T sign, you see a high fence going to a low fence in front of the bullpen. All right, a ball can actually hit on the fence above the AT&T and go over the fence, the lower fence, and that would be a ground rule double, or what I call a Kauffman double.
Okay.
Because you got different heights on the fence.
3-0 now on Melvin Mora. There's a look at the 2 different types of fences.
Right.
That's near the bullpen, and then also talking about in the corners.
Yeah, where the AT&T, you see the light, the light rail just above there. A ball could hit right there and ricochet over, this part here and go
over into the bullpen.
Right.
Well, it's a lot different than when you played here.
Oh, yeah. You know, I'll tell you, and you remember this. This was playoffs, Yankees and Royals. I want to say it was
1980.
80. I hit a ball down the line.
That hit the concrete at the bottom.
At the bottom there, missed the pad, bounced right to Willie Wilson, who overthrew UL Washington, right to George Brett through the relay strike to home, and that's what got.
That was game 2.
Yep, game 2. That would have tied the game. Reggie was hitting behind me, so we don't know what Reggie would have done.
Well, that was when that was the new padding they put out there, and that concrete was really just underneath that padding a little bit there, so it hit it just perfect. And I remember from that game, other than winning the game. I'm sorry, Bob, but how they went right to George Steinbrenner's booth,
and he
grabbed his jacket, and he was really upset. I remember that.
Well, the ironic part of that, that's how you guys ended up getting Dick Hauser, because Dick Hauser got fired after that. Yeah.
Well, I've heard stories and stories over the years about that little trough area in between the padding. Now, it didn't work out for you and the Yankees, but several hitters have gotten a ball caught in that little trough, and corner outfielders not handling it. A lot of inside the park home runs.
Well, this is before they put the padding on the walls. The wall was wood, and the ball would just hit it and go on around the center field. And when they did, the outfielders would go and try to get their foot in there and try to do anything to keep that ball from hugging and going around. So if they didn't get there in time, it was pretty hairy for the outfielder.
Did you have any inside the parkers?
I had 3. I think Willie ended up with like 13 inside the parkers. So.
We're chatting with Bob Watson, Vice President with Major League Baseball. Also has a big role with Team USA, and he has his USA Baseball pendant on his blazer here. And something that's come up recently in Kansas City, Bob, with Joaquim Soria going on the disabled list, and he pitched with Mexico in the World Baseball Classic. I'm sure you're getting both sides of everything about whether this is good for the Major League Baseball season or whether it's bad for the Major League Baseball season.
Well, I could tell you from our standpoint, when I say our, Team USA, the event has been just fantastic for growing the game around the world. Okay, the exposure. The thing that it's a problem because there's no real good time to play the tournament, and I think this all of the times that they could play it. Spring training is the time that seems like it's the best, but for me, it's not a real good time to play it. I would like to see it played maybe in the middle of the season or something, but. Again, teams are trying to get ready for a pennant race, trying to make some evaluations on, and their guy is out playing, representing his country.
The ball just barely nicked by Wigington. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes.
If you played it in the middle of the season, how many days would it take?
Those smart guys would figure that out. I don't know. The thing is this, all right, can you play it after the season?
Well, then you'd have to do it after the postseason, right?
Exactly.
You're probably almost in November at that point.
Right, and it's just, no real good time to play it.
Bill Mesh strikes out his first, so Wigington is out number 2.
Would it be something similar, Bob, to when you take the All-Star team to Japan? To play, would it be something similar to that? That'd be that same time frame, right in there.
If you did it after the season,
after the season,
yeah, it would be that way. But then you have some teams that will say, "Gee whiz, my guy has already pitched 230 innings, and you want him to pitch some more." And so there's a lot of pros and cons. But the concept of a World Classic, they get the exposure of baseball worldwide, has been phenomenal for. The growth of the game.
And it's just not, baseball is just not conducive like basketball and hockey, where they can just shut down for a couple of weeks during the Olympics, right?
Exactly.
1 ball, 1 strike on Nolan Reimold, making his major league debut. We're chatting with Bob Watson, who I'm sure you can see that from both sides, being a former major league general manager. I mean, you can sympathize and empathize.
Exactly.
Aubrey Huff is homered in this inning to make it a 2-1 game. I want to ask you too about, this comes up quite a bit. You and Frank Robinson were play the game the right way type of guys, and now you guys are involved in some of the disciplinary side of the game. That must be difficult to think. If I was playing, I might have done that too. But but today, I got to suspend the guy.
Well, that's the rules have changed, and the reason, you're absolutely right. We would have just took care of ourselves on the field. Guys, if my number 3 hitter got hit, your number 3 hitter got hit. All right. But now, with the average salary at $3 million, we can't have guys, getting hit. Or whatever happens after that is the fighting. You got in the 50 guys on the field, and
all the suspensions that come with that, right?
Yeah, and all of that. So, but times have changed. They're just bottom line. And, you know, Frank and I definitely old school.
Bob, good to see you. Thanks for spending some time with us.
My pleasure, guys.
Bob Watson of the Major League Baseball office. On Girls Night Out on the left side is the wife of our own Nate Bucati, Kelly Bucati, and next to her is Nate's sister Molly. Nate is the uncle to, well, first of all, Molly's 2 dogs. Nate very proud of those 2 dogs. And they're enjoying some cotton candy in the ball game tonight. Mike Jacobs, Jose Guillen, and Mark Tien here in the 4th inning. Jacobs grounded out to second in the second. And went around on appeal to third base umpire Mike DeMuro, but that was a pretty easy call. No balls, 2 strikes. Royals getting 2 in the bottom of the 3rd. Coco Crisp, a 2-out RBI triple, and then David DeJesus followed with an RBI double. Aubrey Huff hit a solo home run in the top of the 4th. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Guthrie with 1 strikeout tonight. He got Butler to end the 3rd inning. That ball had some good late movement on it. Didn't get the call from James Hoy. It's 2-2. Still 2-2 on Jacobs, who moves up to the number 4 spot tonight. Still the designated hitter. So even though Trey Hillman would like to get Mike Jacobs some playing time at first, because that's not his natural position, it appears now that Trey has settled on Billy as the regular first baseman and Jacobs as the regular DH.
I think a lot of times you wait for a situation to play itself out, and the way Billy's played first base to this point gives Trey a lot of confidence that rather than flip-flopping the guys back and forth, it's better to just leave one guy out there, and as long as he's making the plays and let him develop, and Billy's been the guy.
Good pitch over the outside, so 2nd strikeout for Guthrie. Gil Mesh has 1 strikeout in his 4 innings. Here's a pitch by pitch to Ty Wigginton in the 4th.
That's a fastball on the outside corner, and we say that Gil a lot of times get a lot of foul balls, but he's really pounding his own with his fastball. and then just like slide it down the way. There's that fastball that gets fouled off. Another pitch fouled off. A big curveball, and then he gets a strikeout on a high fastball.
Jose Guillen grounds out to third base, so that's the Arby's pitch by pitch. And now Guthrie has retired Jacobs and Guillen in the bottom of the fourth, bringing up Mark Teahen. Teahen grounded into a 6-4-3 double play in the second inning. Breaking ball for strike one. You know, it's interesting talking to Bob Watson, and I appreciated his candor when talking about some of the rulings that he and Frank Robinson have to make now. A couple of old school type players when they were in the game. And he simply said the average salary now is $3 million. And when guys are making that kind of money, can't afford for injuries, and then if you have fights and all the suspensions. And so, you know, you might as well be honest about it. I mean, if you're going to say the suspensions have changed and the rules have changed because of money, well, at least he's coming right out and saying that's why it seems different now than it was then.
And it makes you feel like, well, did they really care about you at all because you wasn't making a lot of money?
Apparently not, Frank.
Because it seems like whenever we got into fights or we knocked guys down or got knocked down, it was the fans were like right in it with you, you know. And I remember the first time I got knocked down by Gaylord Perry in Cleveland, my second series of my career, and I'm looking up at Hall of Fame umpire Nestor Shalak with all this white stuff in my face from getting flipped on my back, and he looks down at me and says, "Welcome to the big leagues, Rook." So that told me right then that this is another kind of baseball.
As Turris has to hurry and got a nice pick from Aubrey Huff to help Guthrie with a 1-2-3 bottom of the fourth inning. Enjoying a 2-1 lead as we move to the fifth inning, and remind you that after the game, Joe Goldberg and Jamie Quirk will be inside Rivals Sports Bar for Boulevard Royals Live, brought to you by Boulevard Brewing Company, Kansas City's beer. We hope you enjoy it on Fox Sports Kansas City. When you come out to the ballpark, we hope you'll enjoy it in person inside of Rivals out in Wright. Nice crowd on a Thursday night, and big crowds expected for the entire weekend series. Royals hoping to end the losing streak tonight, and they lead 2-1 with Greg Zahn leading off against Gil Mesh. Into the left field seats, 0-1. out on a ground ball to second base in the third inning. One and one. With one out in the fourth inning, Gill giving up a home run to Aubrey Huff. So that is the first home run allowed by Gilmesh this year, not the inside the park home run from Howie Kendrick, which was overruled. Zahn slams his bat as Gill throws him out. One out in the fifth, and now we look at the James B. Nutter pitch count for Gilmesh. 65 pitches, 39 strikes. He has walked one and struck out one, and pitch count really hasn't been an issue for Gill. I mentioned in the first inning, Frank, 116 pitches 2 starts ago, 120 pitches for him on Friday.
Well, I just think he's just strong, and he can go as long as he has to go, and the back stiffness slowed him in the one appearance, but really he came back real strong, and I just really like the way he goes about his job on the mound.
This is Felix P.A. lined out to Butler in the third inning.
And we talked to pitching coach Bob McClure about the inside the park home run in Anaheim, and Bob didn't seem overly concerned about it. He just said over the course of a year, it kind of evens out, and it's kind of strange how on the day that they took it away was the day that he gave up the first legitimate home run of the season.
Two and one on PA, who is from the Cubs organization, traded to the Baltimore Orioles, and for a while was regarded as the Cubs' #1 prospect. Just never quite panned out. A lot of talent. His tools compared to Carlos Beltran earlier in his career, but like a lot of guys who are labeled as tools players, haven't turned those into actual skills.
Well, that's true. He's got the speed, and I just would like to see guys who have been up and down a few times, and their batting average hasn't gone along with that. I like to see him change something. I like to see him just take a bat, choke up, just try to make contact, use his speed, just try to be a different type of player.
That is Gill's second walk. So PA with his good speed at first base and one out. T-shirt Tuesday is back. That'll be the beginning of the Cleveland Indians series this upcoming Tuesday. 20,000 fans will receive a T-shirt featuring George Brett from AT&T. You can get your tickets at 1-800-6-ROYALS, Royals.com, the stadium box offices, or area Hy-Vee food stores. It'll be our second T-shirt Tuesday of the year. It is a T-shirt night at Kauffman Stadium. Just a gorgeous mid-May evening. So 1 on 1 out, and now Brian Roberts has had 2 good swings against Gill. He was a .400 career hitter against Gill coming in tonight, and that's over 35 at bats. So that's a solid .400 average. And tonight he has flied out to the warning track in right, and he has doubled to right center field. Taking ball 1 outside. PA with 1 stolen base. He's been thrown out twice. Not running. And Roberts takes high, 2-0. Reno. 3-1 on Roberts. He's been around the game his entire life. Those players who just seem to have a feel for the game. It's almost like it's in their blood. Well, his father Mike was his coach when he was playing at the University of North Carolina. A wide open hole on the right side, and with PA running, he'll continue on his way to third, and the Orioles, down by 1, have runners at first and third and 1 out.
You know, a lot of times we got a left-handed hitter, it's a 3-1 count. You figure that's going to be a strong count for the hitter. So it's unusual to have the second baseman covered with a guy at the plate that can pull the ball hard on the ground like Roberts. That might have been a mix-up between Caspo and Aviles.
And they're talking it over right now, Caspo and Aviles.
I think a lot of times you got to figure out who the captain is out there, and here's the situation here. The count's 3-1, so it's a strong pull count for the hitter. He's trying to get a ball middle in that he can really pull and try to drive in the right center field. And so Caspo left as soon as Felix PA left. Caspo left, so you got to get close enough that you can at least take maybe one step but hold, but you got to be set when that ball's in the hitting area.
Now ball 1 on Cesar Izturis, who has popped to short, grounded out to second base.
I always feel like the guy who's out there the most should be the guy that's doing the calling, and I think that's Aviles. So he's really got to be the one to kind of read that situation, read that count, and make sure they make the right call.
And now 2-0, and Gil Mesh having some control issues in this inning. He walked PA and then fell behind Roberts 3-1, who singled to right, and now it's 2-0 on Izturis. Two balls, 1 strike.
There's always that 1 inning or 2 innings during the course of a game where a pitcher's going to have to pitch himself out of trouble, and this is that 1 inning for Gil. He kind of lost touch, lost the feel for his fastball, up in the zone, a little off the plate. So this is that 1 inning he just tried to reel himself back in and get it done.
Comes up with a big pitch there to even the count at 2-2 as Robinson Tejeda just starts to warm up in the right field bullpen.
Well, this is a real good changeup, and we talked about the changeups earlier that stayed up. This is how his changeup should react. It should go down, and the left-handed hitters usually swing out over that pitch, just like we just saw there.
Still 2-2. I want to remind you, you can find Fox Sports Kansas City on Facebook and Twitter. On Facebook, we have Royals videos and behind-the-scenes photos, and you can follow us on Twitter. Get unique Royals news and analysis during the game. To find the links, go to our webpage at foxsports.com/Kansas City. Keeping an eye on Roberts, 5 stolen bases, thrown out 3 times. The Orioles have been thrown out attempting to steal more than any team in the American League, 13 times. Roberts started to go stopped, and the pitch is high to make it a full count. So he had such a big jump that he frightened himself and stopped.
Well, it could be Gil doing the same, holding the ball for the same count, 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, and after a while, you say, okay, he's going to throw every time he goes 1,002, and you take off, and you do fool yourself sometimes. So Gil's got to change.
Now he's running, and that's into right center field. Long run for Coco, and now he's going to have to chase it down at the wall. The Orioles are going to take the lead, and Izturis will go into third base standing, driving in 2.
Well, it's another changeup right here that stayed up, and then Sears really got the bat hit on that one and hit it into right center field. And And like Coco did kind of an in and out route on that one. Like he came in thinking the ball wasn't hit as hard, and then he tried to go back on it once he got back. So it just wasn't a real good read off the bat from Coco Chris.
Now ball one on Nick Markakis. So that decision on the coverage not only put a runner over to third base on a base hit, but allowed Roberts to score the go-ahead run. That might have been a ground ball to second base.
Well, I always feel when you got a left-handed hitter up and in that situation there, I would rather have him get a base hit to left field. Then you got a better chance of holding at second base rather than vacate the hole on the right field side, which is an automatic first and third.
Markakis is fouled to left and grounded out to short. And Gill's ahead 1-2. Markakis has driven in 30 runs already this year. That is the fifth most in the American League. The Royals have the infield at halfway with his Turris at third base and one out. And now the Orioles lead 4-2. DeJesus cutting it off in the corner, but then couldn't stay on his feet. So with one out, a walk, a single, a triple, a double. And Baltimore has come up with 3 in the fifth.
Well, Nick Markakis did a real good job on this fastball. It was up, it was out over the plate away from him, a two-seamer running away, and he just really stayed with it. And really the key to this pitch is it was up, and he caught it at a good spot and hit it right down the left field line. And those guys that can use the whole field, they just don't try to do too much. They just stay with the pitch and get it in there.
Mesh is out. Tejeda is in. Five innings, and then all of a sudden got hit around in the sixth.
Well, that's really a big change. You sailing through the game. It's a good ball game, and then you had the mix up on the coverage at second base, and that one play right there seems like everything just starts snowballing from there. So it's just one of those things you just got to kind of pitch your way through. And Gill started getting the ball up and kind of lost his command, and I think that's probably what Trey Hillman and Bob McClure were looking at when they took him out of the ball game.
So Tejeda with a 1.54 ERA on for the 10th time. And this year his role has been fireman, closer if you will, for Trey Hillman in the middle of the game, trying to limit damage. And the Orioles have scored 3. They have Markakis at second base and one out. And Aubrey Huff, who homered his last time. Huff is 1 out of 2. Trey did say that while this appears to be a good role for Tejeda because of his stuff and his ability to get strikeouts, that he would not like to bring Tejeda into a bases loaded situation. Robinson still will walk a guy every now and then, so you'd like to give him at least one base to work with.
I think he really likes his ability to strike hitters out. He can come in and get that pop up, a strikeout that you need, and even a ground ball.
Two balls and one strike. Well, the inning began innocently with Greg Zahn grounding back to Mesh, but then PA, the number 9 hitter, batting about 200, taking a walk. And then the wrong choice on the coverage with PA running and Roberts singling into right field. Is Turris a 2-run triple, Markakis RBI double. Aspo to the hole to cut it off, throws out Huff, and Markakis moves up to third base. And now Melvin Mora. This is game 1 of 4 with the Orioles. Tomorrow's game is a sellout. Zach Greinke's 6-1 against right-hander Adam Eaton. Same time, first pitch, 7:10. Royals live with Joel Goldberg and Jamie Quirk at 6:30 here on Fox Sports Kansas City. Tejeda throws strike 1 to Mora. Grounded out on a diving play by Tien in the second inning. Walked on 4 pitches in the fourth. One and one. One and two on Mora, the father of quintuplets. He and his wife Giselle back in August of 2002. That made not just baseball news, but national news. And now those quintuplets are going to turn 7 this year. Past Tien, it's 5-2 Baltimore. They've scored 4 in the 5th inning.
Now, Ryan, this was really kind of the theme on the road trip. Is whenever things started to go bad for the Royals, it just kept going bad. I mean, the bullpen wasn't able to come out and really minimize the damage, or someone makes an error that really keeps it going. So, and I think this game right now is typical of what we saw last night and on a couple of games on the road trip.
Well, this was one of the 4 things that we talked about tonight, about preventing the big inning. And the general definition of a big inning, anytime a team scores 3 runs or more. There was that big inning in the 7th on Sunday in Anaheim. And then an enormous inning on Tuesday in Oakland, 7 runs in the 2nd, and then last night 5 runs in the 7th. And the Royals led this game 2-1 when this inning started, but now Baltimore has come up with 4. It's 1-1 on Ty Wigginton. Did he go? Yes. Dale Scott, the first base umpire and crew chief. All 5 of the runs scored by the Orioles charged to Gil Mesh in 4 1/3 innings. On the outside corner, so Tejeda finishes off the Orioles, but another run scores after he entered. It's 5-2. We're leading 5-2. We want to welcome a new sponsor, Cabot Woodstain, and now a new feature, the Woodstain Legendary Performance. On this date, 32 years ago, Jim Colburn pitched a no-hitter for the Royals, the first ever in this ballpark, then named Royals Stadium, beating the Texas Rangers 6-0. And in my now 11 years with the Royals, what I've heard the most about that was that Jim Colburn was not the type of guy when he would come out of the bullpen you thought would be pitching a no-hitter, and B, in his next start, because he was such a character, he guaranteed he was going to pitch another no-hitter against the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, Jim was a really fun-loving kind of guy, and he had a ton of fun when he was on the mound, and really when he pitched, he had a lot of fun.
Frank White had a hand in that 6-0 victory as Callaspo flies to center. He's 0 for 2. You had an RBI in that 6-0 victory. Do you remember anything in particular defensively helping with that no-hitter?
Not really. I just wanted it to be a nice, easy 1-2 hopper every time they hit it to me. But no, I tell you, you remember more about me than me. I don't. I remember the game and I remember the no-hitter, but anything that happened inside of it, I have a hard time going back that far. And what was it, man? They're trying to remember, 77, 78?
1977.
77.
Well, it was one of those no-hitters, too, where, from what I've heard, a lot of defense was required, and there were some good defensive plays, which there normally are, too. Even when a guy is dominant in a no-hitter, there's 1 or 2 plays on defense that preserve the no-hitter.
Right, Jim wasn't overpowering. He threw a lot of sliders and a lot of off-speed pitches, and I remember that it was a day game. I remember, I think, I'm not sure, but but I just remember the game. Just saying how happy he was when it was over, because he was one of those guys that.
Buck pounds it to deep left field. John Buck, who had been 0 for his last 10, is 2 for 2 tonight. And the Royals have a runner at second base with 1 out.
John did another good job here on a changeup that stayed inside, and he just got the bat head to the ball. Earlier, he took a sinker down and in and drove it back through the middle, so he's doing a good job staying back and letting the ball travel and trusting his hands to get through.
And now Aviles, who scored one of the 2 runs in the 3rd inning. And Guthrie dropping down a little bit there on that pitch, riding over the inside corner for strike 1. Aviles lost a hit on a fielder's choice. He lined one to right. John Buck was at first. And Nick Markakis coming in from right really didn't give any indication whether he was going to catch it or let it drop. And John Buck had to play it halfway. Markakis caught it on a short hop, through to second for a fielder's choice. Over to Roberts at second base. So 2 down, and John Buck over to third. Bud Light presents What's on Tap, and an upcoming look at the Royals schedule. It's a 4-game series with Baltimore, so tomorrow night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. The Royals have Monday off, and then the Cleveland Indians in town. And if you just go by the records, this would appear to be a homestand where the Royals could get healthy again, playing against 2 last place teams. Coco takes ball 1 high. This is not a team that the Royals have enjoyed much success against lately, and the Orioles have struggled, especially the last 3 years. But last 2 years, the Royals have only won 3 games against Baltimore. Orioles ran the table against the Royals in 2007, going 7-0, and when the Royals won a game last year against Baltimore and snapped a 12-game losing streak against the O's. That gets us back to You Call It, presented by Sprint. And whereas KC had more success against the Orioles, 37% saying Camden Yards. Adding in a little trivia element tonight. Old Municipal Stadium here in Kansas City on Brooklyn. Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. And then here at Kauffman Stadium or Camden Yards in Baltimore. Three and one on Coco. We will give you the correct answers a little bit later, but go ahead and text in at 432-432. Enter keyword Royals, followed by a space and your selection. Coco takes a walk, his 24th of the year. Now the Royals trying to do something again with 2 outs. They got their 2 runs in the 3rd with 2 down. So 1st and 3rd, and now David DeJesus, who is 1 for 2, but he was in the middle of that 2-run 3rd inning with a 2-out RBI double. That is the first walk given up by Jeremy Guthrie, and only the 15th all season. Over the outside corner, strike 1. This was back in the 3rd inning with 2 outs.
Well, David just got a fastball middle in and just really turned on it and got it down in the right field corner. And that was a huge hit for David. He's been really searching for that base hit.
Just 1 out of 18 on the road trip. But 1 for 2 tonight with his 15th RBI. Greg's on, thinking twice about the pitch that he gave to Guthrie. Wants to go through the signs again. No balls, 2 strikes. DeJesus and the crowd did not like that call.
Well, that's one that's kind of questionable down right there, and then the way Greg caught that ball gave the impression that it was outside. It's very rare you see, like the pitch before, it's very rare you see the pitcher okay a pitch, and then the catcher all of a sudden changes his mind, and the pitcher goes right with it. That's a little unusual.
And now Zahn keeping that ball in front of him. He had no intent at all trying to catch that ball. It was all about just getting his body in front of it.
Well, that's what they try to do. They try to get the glove out of the way and keep the glove to the side, and they want to let that ball hit him right in the belly. But he got his glove in a good angle right there. Normally the ball will go off the heel of that glove, and that's where a lot of wild pitches are developed right there. But you see a lot of the catchers, they'll get that hand right out of the way, cup their shoulders, soften in the middle, and then we talk to Brett Maine, just kick it back out in front of the plate.
On the pitch before, Coco took 2 or 3 steps towards second base and then stopped. So that caught Guthrie's attention, and now trying to freeze Coco by holding in the set position. So that's good for DeJesus as Coco has divided Guthrie's attention. Now the fake to third, look at first, flinch to first.
Well, this situation here is when the pitcher coach and the manager say, hey, look, you're throwing the ball good. It's 2 outs. You know, concentrate on this hitter. Make a good pitch to the hitter. Don't worry about the runner at first base. And this is when you make mistakes.
Again, Zahn blocks in the dirt, and the count goes to 2-2. Instead of a pitching coach or a manager, it's Melvin Mora, the veteran, coming over from third base to say something to Guthrie.
Well, he's really concerned about Coco. Really, as soon as he let that ball go, he knew he was going to be down. His head went right to first base. You know, let's see if Coco's leaving or not. So he really just needs to concentrate on getting this third out, and he'll be fine.
And the count goes from 0-2 to 3-2. So no suspense now. Coco will be leaving on this 3-2 pitch and could possibly score on a well-placed single. Ball 4, they're loaded up for Butler. Well, Frank, even though the Royals only scored 9 runs on the 0-5 road trip, there were a lot of innings like this. It's not like for 5 days the Royals had no chance on offense. There were some rallies, there were some base runners, there were some threats like this with 2 outs, just very few big hits.
Well, that's what you need, is just somebody to get a big hit in a situation like this to really get the team turned around.
Rick Kranitz, the pitching coach, out there to talk with Guthrie, and we'll tell you that Inc. College Nights offer $7 tickets to high school and college students with a valid student ID every Wednesday. So May 20th is an Inc. College Night. It's also a happy hour with concession specials and the outfield experience. 1-800-6-ROYALS, Royals.com. Stadium box offices or area Hy-Vee food stores for tickets. Billy takes ball 1. So Guthrie had not allowed a single walk through 4 2/3 innings. He walks Crisp, and then he lets DeJesus get away after he was ahead in the count 0-2. And now 2-0 on Billy, and this is going to be dangerous for Guthrie. A 2-0 count, and even though Billy is 0 for 2 with a strikeout against Guthrie, he has seen a lot of pitches.
And he's had some good swings, and he's fouled them off. Now he's got a center ball to his liking. If it's not the one he wants, he's just got to let it go.
It's not what he was looking for, and it's 2 balls, 1 strike. Billy, like most hitters, into a greater degree. Average going up about 180 points when he's ahead in the count. Slices a breaking ball just off the right field line. He tried to do that early in the count last time up.
Well, Guthrie really overthrew that breaking ball and kind of backed up into Billy a little bit, and he had a good swing at it, but really kind of got in on him and kind of pushed it out to right field. See how it just starts to go back into his bat, and that's a tough pitch to hit, that backup breaking ball.
Just missed outside with the slider. That was the same pitch that Butler swung and missed at to strike out last time.
Well, that was it, and Billy showed a lot of discipline to lay off of it, and right now everybody's going to be moving.
Everybody on the field moving. Everyone in the seats are standing. Royals down by 3 in the 5th inning. Billy lines it into left field. That's down. It's going to roll deep. 2 have scored. DeJesus stops at third. It's a 1-run game.
Well, this is what we were looking for right here. He let the breaking ball out over the plate for Billy, and Billy pulled it down in the corner.
This time the Royals come through with the 2-out hit. With 1 on, 2 out, back-to-back walks, and Butler with a 2-run single, and now Jacobs. And the Orioles may have wanted to get Jamie Walker in the game, the former Royal, who's done so well against left-hand hitters, but perhaps didn't get him ready in time. As he's warming up. And the next lefty is still Tian, who's 2 spots down in the order. So things unraveled quickly for Guthrie in this inning.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to Coco. He walked him, and then he let him divide his attention with David DeJesus, and ended up walking him. And then before you know it, your concentration is not on the hitter; it's on everything, and you kind of lose sight. And now you find yourself in the middle of a big rally by the Royals.
Roberts throws out Jacobs, and that's the inning. But the Royals get back into the game thanks to Billy Butler with 2 outs, driving in Buck and Chris. Billy Butler coming up with this hit. Bases loaded, 2 outs. And driving in 2, turning a 4-run game into a 1-run game, or excuse me, a 3-run game into a 1-run game. So the decision to bat Butler in the number 3 position tonight has paid off. Coors Light Freeze Can brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
The one thing we talked about, Ryan, at the top of the show was how important it was for the number 1 and 2 guy to get on and give the 3, 4, and 5 guys an opportunity to hit with men on base, and it really helped the Royals in that situation.
So now the job of Robinson Tejeda and the bullpen to hold the Orioles right here. They scored 4 of their 5 runs in the 5th. And the only man not to bat, Nolan Reimold, who's making his major league debut tonight. He is lined out, grounded out. Late on a fastball at 95, and he's down 1-2. Tejeda got the last 2 outs of the 5th inning for Gil Mesh. All 5 runs charged to Gil, and 4 1/3. Another run that was charged to Gil scored after he had left the game. Melvin Mora's base hit against Tejeda, scoring the 5th run for the Orioles. So Reimold, Zahn, and PA, 7, 8, 9 hitters coming up in the 6th. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes. Reimold last year hit 25 home runs. Or was it Double-A Bowie? Still alive at 2 balls, 2 strikes. In 2006, he hit 19 home runs at Class A Frederick. Drafted by the Orioles in the 2nd round in 2005. Got him. Tejeda strikes out his 2nd, 1 down in the 6th inning. Well, another popular event is coming back this year. Royals Alumni Fans Batting Practice. That's on July the 11th this year, 8 a.m. until noon here at Kauffman Stadium. 10 Royals alumni to work with you. It's different this year. Moms, dads, and kids 14 and older can participate. So moms can come out. There's Buck Martinez, former Royals catcher, now television analyst for the Baltimore Orioles. Speaking of Royals alumni. Not sure if Buck can make the event, but if he can, he will. It's $300 per adult, $100 for each kid, limited to just 40 spots. So you're going to get plenty of swings at Royals Alumni Fans Batting Practice. Again, July the 11th. You can go to Royals.com if you'd like more information. 1-1 to Greg Zahn. There's another former Royals catcher. And for the rest of my life, Frank White, when I think of Greg Zahn, I'm going to remember that spring training workout at the end of 2001 when Greg Zahn, for the first time in his career, was going to go into opening day as the starting catcher. And the Royals were doing some base running drills right before breaking camp, and he tore a calf muscle during those drills. Started the season on the disabled list. Was able to come back from the DL, but at the time he said it was the most disappointing day of his life. And I remember it was a quiet day at Baseball City, and his teammates were egging him on. His nickname was Rat Boy when he was with the Royals. Come on, Rat Boy, come on, Rat Boy. And he tried to shift it into another gear and tore the calf muscle. Good hard slider from Tejeda, so he has struck out the last 3. Zahn is 0 for 3. 2 down in the 6th inning.
Well, Tejeda's got that real good fastball, and he's got that real good slider and change. I mean, it's amazing how good of stuff he has, and that's just a hard slider that goes down. And really, the only real area that you can talk about with him. Is everybody just talked about what kind of command he would have, but he's really done a great job for the Royals.
And now Felix PA. He got that 4-run fifth started with a 1-out walk. Scored on his Turris 2-run triple. His Turris, Markakis, and Mora driving in the runs in the fifth. Tejeda falls behind 2-0. PA in center field is Adam Jones. Had to leave the Orioles game in St. Petersburg early yesterday with a tight hamstring. That's a break for the Royals because Jones was off to a great start. And PA hits a bloop into right field. He might try for two. He's going to test Guillen's arm, and Jose didn't get him. An outstanding throw, and Avila's trying to apply the tag, but PA just beating the throw to second base.
Well, this is recognizing right off the bat whether you have a chance to make this play or not, and he didn't really hit the ball as well. It kind of got in on him, and Jose did a great job just coming up with it and making a great throw. But then again, as I always talked about, being on the right side of the bag. If Mike is on the right field side of the bag, then he's got a chance to backhand that ball and tag him on the back side. Again, you put the runner between him and the ball. That's what you don't want to do. So you see where the ball travels and see how far the ball passed Mike and try to get back. If he's on the right field side, then I think they get him at second base.
Not only that, but he probably gets the throw quicker, right? The ball travels a longer distance if he's on the inside part of the bag.
Well, yeah, actually the ball traveled past the bag to get to Mike, and he had to reach back. So if he's on the right field side, now the runner doesn't get between him and the ball. And you hear me say that a lot. And but it's just the way that it just gives you a better opportunity to get the runner out.
Royals aren't going to mess with Brian Roberts, who's 2 out of 3, and his only out was a fly ball to the warning track. So first and second, and now is Turris, who had a 2-run triple in that 4-run fifth inning, and then he later came around to score. So PA taking advantage of Guillen's lack of range and turning a single into a double, and now the intentional walk, and the Orioles trying to do what the Royals did in the bottom of the fifth, put a little rally together with 2 outs. Strike 1 on his Turris. One. The Orioles had 2 huge deficiencies going into spring training, or at least for most of the offseason. They did not have a starting shortstop, and they had only 1 lock in their starting rotation. And they signed his Turris towards the end of the offseason. Butler under his glove, and the Orioles are going to add a run. So it's 6-4 Baltimore after the Royals just got 2 in the bottom of the fifth.
Well, this is a situation here where the runner could have blocked Billy's vision long enough that he kind of lost the ball for just a brief second. And Roberts, he's being a smart base runner, he just kind of held there until the last minute, and then he decided to get out of the way. But at that point, he could have blocked his vision enough that he didn't get a good read on the ball.
And now the dangerous Markakis, who has driven in a run tonight and 31 on the season. So 2 strikeouts to Reimold and Zahn. And the big play in this inning, Felix PA. It looked like he just hit a little bloop single to right field, straight away right field. It wasn't in the gap, it wasn't in the line, but taking advantage of Jose Guillen and turning that into a double. That put a runner in scoring position, and coming home to score on the Turris single. And now it's 2-0 on Markakis. Now this game isn't over, and the Royals still have 4 at-bats to go, but that's one of those painful runs. You get 2 in the bottom of the 5th to make it a 1-run game. You're that close to a 1-2-3 inning, getting the defense back in the dugout. The momentum is clearly on your side, and now you're trying to avoid another big inning. It's 2-1 to Markakis.
Yeah, it would have really helped the Royals if Billy had been able to knock that ball down. You know, just that would have been enough to just keep the runner from scoring. But it didn't get much of a glove on it, and it got through to the outfield. But when you have speed forces you to do a lot of things, and PA really realized that he didn't hit that ball that well, and he was in his full stride right from home plate. He was going for 2 all the way.
2-2 on Markakis. .343 batting average for Markakis with 6 home runs, 31 driven in. 96 with the fastball. Tonight's copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Kansas City Royals. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Kansas City Royals Baseball Corporation. Ryan Lefevre, Frank White, with Joel Goldberg, along with producer Kevin Schenk, director Steve Kurtenbach, associate producers Al Broughton, Sam Abramson, and the rest of our Fox Sports Kansas City crew. The beginning of an exciting 7-game homestand. Big crowd tonight, big crowds all weekend. Royals down by 2 as Markakis hits it foul past Butler. Now the Orioles can hit. You look at their record, 14-20. Got off to a fast start. They were 6-2, and some rumblings about a surprise team in the American League, but then they dropped 14 of 17. But they're in the middle of the pack in several offensive categories, some of them a little higher than that. 5th in the league in home runs. Aubrey Huff is homered tonight. 6th in batting average. They have 9 hits in 5 2/3 innings, so they will score runs. And Markakis up the right field line, but foul. Tejeda opened the inning, striking out Reimold and Zahn. Then PA with a hustling double. Ryan Roberts intentionally walked his Turris, singling home PA. And Markakis fouls another pitch away. Deep right field. Guillen into the corner. He won't get there, and it's up against the wall. Around third is his Turris. 2-run double for Markakis. It's a 3-run 6th inning. So the Royals have given the runs back and then some. And before Aubrey Huff comes to the plate, Trey Hillman is going to get Ron Mayhay into the game. last night, and now with a 2-1 lead going into the 5th. Baltimore getting 4 in the 5th and 3 here in the 6th, and now have their biggest lead of the night, 4 runs.
I think it goes back to making good pitches, and Gill's really his downfall started when he started getting up in the zone and giving up some base hits there, and Tejeda left the ball up, and Markakis was able to get it down in the right field corner, and it really kind of started with that hustle play of Felix P.A. On the ball to right field. He hustled a double and intentional walk to Roberts, and it just kept going from there.
And he might have been the only one in the ballpark thinking double when that ball was hit. I mean, it was a straightaway right field, but it's a play like that that'll just energize an entire dugout, right?
But when you have speed, it changes the game, and speed never sleeps and it never goes on vacation, and so when you got the ball, and you got to kind of speed up with the game, and speed makes you speed up. And someone threw a ball on the field out in right field from the stand.
(2-0) on Aubrey Huff. Hit his 7th home run of the year in the 4th inning. Solo against Gil Mesh. And now 3-0 from Mayhay to Huff. Aubrey Huff hit 4 home runs and had 10 RBIs against the Royals last year. 4-pitch walk. So the lefty-lefty matchup. Mayhay not able to throw a strike to Huff, and now it's right hand hitting Melvin Mora. Well, what happened to the Royals last night is going to happen to every team in baseball more than once a year, where you have to land at 4 or 5 in the morning. So nobody's feeling sorry for the Royals, but what you would like to see the day after that is a nice quick game, because the longer this game goes, I think the harder it's going to be both physically and mentally to stay in the game. The Orioles had a night game in St. Petersburg, but they were here a lot earlier than the Royals were.
Well, it looked that way the way the game started with Guthrie and Mesh. They was breezing there. It was breezing through that. It just hit like a little roadblock there in the 5th inning. And it's been pretty slow since then.
Mora has driven in a run. Trey Hillman was saying yesterday that sometimes the day after a difficult travel kind of has a relaxing effect on the team. Ron Mayhay still hasn't thrown a strike yet, but you come to the game, you know you're going to be tired. You tend not to put too much pressure on yourself, and the result can be you relax, you play a good game. The one you worry about is the next day. That's kind of when it really starts to hit you. 3-1 to Mora.
Well, I know we had some tough days when we had to come out and play, whether it be really hot or really cold or travel, but you really can't afford to go into a game without your concentration. You really have to fight through it, and you got to trick yourself sometimes to get through, but you don't want to go out there and embarrass yourself by not concentrating. So everybody has to kind of really, that old saying, cinch up your belt and go out there and lay it out there and get it done.
Bob McClure is going to go out and talk to Mayhay, who has thrown 9 pitches since coming out of the bullpen and only 1 strike. This inning began with 2 outs and nobody on, and really looked good for the Royals. They had just scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 5th, and they had put together a nice 2-out rally, and thanks to a couple of walks, bases were loaded. Billy Butler coming up with a clutch 2-out, 2-run base hit. It was a 1-run game. The crowd was into it. Gave the Royals a jolt of life. And then Tejeda coming out in this inning, striking out the first 2 hitters, Reimold and Zahn. Look like the Royals are going to be on their way, but PA with the double, and I think you and I agree that was the play of the game, or the play of this inning so far. An intentional walk, RBI single, 2-run double, and now back-to-back walks. Now the Royals have to make sure that this game doesn't get away from them in this 6th inning. And Ron Mayhew is all over the place.
And he's usually been sharp coming out of the bullpen, and I think the Royals are really finding themselves now. Earlier we were talking about how the starters are going deep in the games and the bullpen was getting very little work, and now the bullpen of late is starting to get a little more work, and they're starting to even out a little bit.
2-0. So that's 11 pitches thrown by Mayhew, 1 strike. And now you worry about him aiming one and not having his normal zip on it.
And that's where you really get in trouble right there.
Wigington 1 for 3, an infield single and 2 strikeouts. 3 balls and 1 strike. Three and 2, and Wigington doing the right thing. He was taking all the way.
I think I would have given in the first one, but I don't think I would have given in the second one.
Now the runner's on the move, and a ground ball to Tien that eats him up. Still has some time and gets Wigington to end the inning. But Baltimore gets 3. It all started with 2 outs and nobody on.
Well, with the score 8-4 Baltimore, the Royals are a grand slam away, and this is our Sonic Slam inning. Our contestant is Joel Harris from Kansas City, Missouri. If the Royals hit a home run this inning, Joel will win $200. But if the Royals hit a grand slam out of the park, Joel will win $25 grand from Sonic and the Kansas City Royals.
And the Royals will have to do that against a new pitcher, Danny Baez. Replaces Jeremy Guthrie, who just barely qualifies for the win, giving up 4 runs, 6 hits in 5 innings. He had a 5-2 lead. The Royals got 2 in the bottom of the 5th to make it 5-4. But now the Orioles with 3 in the 6th to take a 4-run lead. Guillen, Tien, Callaspo coming up against Baez. Jose is singled, grounded out to third base. And now he's on with a 4-pitch walk. There have been some badly timed walks tonight on both sides, and both teams have taken advantage. In the 5th inning, with John Buck at third base and 2 outs, Jeremy Guthrie walked Coco Crisp. Then he was ahead of DeJesus, 0-2, walked him, and the Royals made him pay for that. Billy Butler with a 2-out, 2-run single. And now ball 1 on Martin. And the Orioles 4-run 5th inning with 1 out. That rally started with a walk to the number 9 hitter. And in the 6th, an intentional walk to Brian Roberts. He came around to score. And then Ron Mahay walked consecutive batters, Huff and Mora, but that didn't lead to any more runs. Royals have walked 5. The Orioles have walked 3. 2-1 on Tien. Grounded out to short twice. One of those ground balls was a double play. Danny Baez coming back after missing last year. He had Tommy John surgery on his right elbow. Tien to Roberts, out at second. Double play. The Tien has rolled into 2 tonight. And 2 outs, nobody on for Callaspo. Our next telecast in high definition is coming up tomorrow night with Zach Greinke on the mound against Adam Eaton. 7:10 first pitch. Royals live at 6:30, brought to you by Time Warner Cable, where HD is free with digital cable. And that double play is huge as Callaspo goes into the left field corner and has a 2-out double. So leadoff walk, things looking good for the Royals, but that double play is enormous for the O's. Now Callaspo standing at second base without driving in a run, and there's 2 outs.
Well, he does a good job. His 97-mile-an-hour fastball moving away. He just stayed with it and hit it right inside the third baseline for a double. That's a good piece of hitting. Just stay back, use his hands right there. And like you say, the double play rears his ugly head again for the Royals.
14 doubles makes Callaspo second in the league to Evan Longoria. John Buck has had a good night, 0 for his last 10 coming in. A single to center in the 3rd inning and then doubled and scored in the 5th. Orioles went out and spent a whole bunch of money before the 2007 season to improve their bullpen. And 2 of the big names were Danny Baez and Jamie Walker, who played for the Royals. But by the end of the 2007 season, Baez was out after injuring his elbow, had the ligament replacement surgery, and then missed all of last year. Two balls, 1 strike. Baez with a good hard slider at 89 miles an hour. There's some pitchers in the league would like to have a fastball at 89 miles an hour.
Especially with that kind of movement on it, for sure. You see the split finger grip right there. That ball just really, normally it would go down, but that one just acted like a cutter and went straight to the outside half of the plate.
Now 3-2 on Buck with Mike Aviles on deck. in a game tonight where both teams have had a difficult time getting the third out. And a walk to Buck. So 2 walks given up by Baez, and the Royals would like to make him pay for that. First and second for Aviles. 0 for 2 so far. He has scored one of the 4 Royals runs.
Well, you know, we've seen a lot of 2-out rallies, and a lot of time the 2-out rally is really the starting pitcher, and it gets the 2 outs, and all of a sudden it relaxes a little bit. And I think that's why you see a lot of 2-out rallies develop.
Coming up on Sunday, 10,000 kids 14 and under can get up close and personal with a lion here at Kauffman Stadium as we're giving out Build-A-Bear Workshop Lions on Sunday. It's a 1:10 game. Tickets at 1-800-6-ROYALS, Royals.com, the stadium box office, or area Hy-Vee food stores. Iaspo at second, Buck at first. And Aviles taking strike 1. Aviles facing Baez for the first time. Ball, 1 strike. It was 10 years ago that Danny Baez defected from the Cuban national team during the Pan American Games, and at the time signed the richest contract ever for a Cuban defectee. Going to the Cleveland Indians. He's also pitched in the big leagues with the Tampa Bay Rays. Late movement, got the outside corner. It's 1-2. He's come back just fine from Tommy John surgery, still throwing in the mid-90s.
I say a lot of pitchers after their surgery seem to throw harder. I don't know, haven't had the explanation for it, but they always come back a little bit better.
And Aviles lays off that pitch. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Baez has always had the great stuff, and we've seen it in this inning, but has never been able to turn that into being a good closer. He's had success as a setup man, but not necessarily finishing off games. 96 with that fastball.
He's definitely got closer stuff. It just kind of gets down to mentally if you can handle that closing role. When you go in as a setup guy, then you know you just got to get through the 8th inning. It's not like you're trying to win the game right there, and so it's more of a confidence thing between the setup guy in the 8th and the closer in the 9th.
3 balls and 2 strikes. He's about to load him up for Coco Crisp. The only real opportunity he's had to be closer, 2003 with the Indians, and he had 10 blown saves and 9 losses. Runners going, and Aviles fouls it away. And the way bullpens are now, I mean, you can be just as valuable to your team being the setup guy, the setup to the setup guy, but it takes a special individual to handle that 9th inning.
Yeah, it's on the line at that point. You have nowhere to go.
Iaspo, the runner at second base, reached with a double. Buck at first with a walk. They're running, and Aviles strikes out. Royals strand 2 in the 6th inning. Orioles lead 8-4. coming up with 5 runs in 4 1/3 innings against Gil Mesh, including an Aubrey Huff home run. Coco Crisp getting a rally started for the Royals in the bottom of the 5th with a triple. David DeJesus getting him to the plate. And then Billy Butler driving in 2 runs in the 5th. So 2 in the 3rd, 2 in the 5th. And all those runs coming with 2 outs for the Royals. Baltimore with 7 runs in their last 2 at-bats and lead 8-4. Nolan Reimold making his major league debut, batting against Ron Mahay. 1 ball, 1 strike. Reimold 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Up the middle. Backhand Callaspo, low throw, and it's off of Butler's glove, although Reimold might have been safe anyway. They're going to call that a base hit, and that's the first major league hit for Nolan Reimold. Billy didn't stretch for that one, Frank. It's almost like he let the ball eat him up.
Yeah, you almost have to read that hop, and you have to go out and get it, and he stayed back. If he stretches out, it would definitely be a closer play. But he just kept his feet even right there, and that's why the ball got under his glove, and just too straight up.
Now 0-1 on Greg Zaun. Zaun 0 for 3, struck out last time against Robinson Tejeda. One ball, 1 strike. Greg Zaun is originally from the Baltimore Orioles organization. He's from Southern California. He was going to play his college ball at the University of Texas, but was drafted by Baltimore, the team that he grew up rooting for because his uncle is Rick Dempsey. He was a longtime Orioles catcher and was the MVP of the 1983 World Series, so a chance to play for the Orioles, and he wouldn't let that pass up. This is his 2nd time with Baltimore. And Callaspo starts a 4-6-3 double play, erasing the infield single from Reimold. 2 down in the 7th inning. Remember, you can get your team gear at the official online pro shop of the Royals. Shop the largest online selection of Royals caps, t-shirts, jerseys, and more. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Royals.com Pro Shop. And now Felix Pie turned a single into a double in the 6th inning and turned a 1-2-3 inning into a 3-run 6th. Out on the ground ball to second base here in the 7th. Royals have the top of the order coming up. It's stretch time at Kauffman Stadium. Baltimore here at Kauffman Stadium, and now look at the Panera Bread scoreboard. Other scores in the American League. Minnesota winning again. How about Joe Creedy with a 2-run single after the walk-off grand slam last night. Texas over Seattle. The Rangers remain in first place. The Angels remain a game and a half back with their win in 12 innings. Jeff Mathis winning it in the 12th. New York over Toronto. CC Sabathia picking up the win. And it was Cleveland over Tampa Bay. Royals will see the Cleveland Indians beginning on Tuesday night for 3 games. Former Royal Jamie Walker on the mound to face Coco Crisp, David DeJesus, and Billy Butler. Grounded to short is Turris. Gets Coco. Coco is 1 for 3. He has scored twice and has driven in a run. So Jamie Walker, who is beginning his 3rd year now with Baltimore, got a big contract. Joining the Orioles in 2007 after helping the Detroit Tigers advance to the World Series in 2006. And whenever I watch Jamie Walker pitch, I'm always going to think about Jimmy Gobble and wonder if he had stayed with that sidearm delivery, could he have done for his career what Jamie Walker did for his when he decided to become a sidearm pitcher.
Well, Gobble really did a pretty good job in that situation against lefties when he stayed down there, but you know, getting to the other side of the plate was a little bit difficult for him, and he was just looking for more movement and deception, and that's why Jamie Walker went down to that low arm angle.
And it seems like that's a commitment you have to make 100%. You can't be sidearm some of the time and over the top the rest of the time.
I agree. You just got to develop it, and you know, we talked to Ziegler last night. He watched a whole lot of film on Dan Quisenberry and trying to develop the right technique for throwing that pitch.
Good play by his Turris, taking the spin out of that ground ball and throwing out to Jesus, who is 1 for 3. 2 quick outs for Walker in the 7th inning. Jamie Walker coming over to the Royals with Jermaine Dye in the trade that sent Michael Tucker and Keith Lockhart to the Braves. Jamie had some arm troubles, didn't pitch a whole lot with the Royals, and had to put his career back together, and did so successfully with the Tigers. Billy 1 out of 3, but that one hit was a 2-out 2-run single in the 5th inning, and at the time turned a 5-2 game into a 5-4 game. And the Royals had seemed to get the momentum back. But at the top of the 6th inning, with 2 outs and nobody on, the Orioles rallied to get 3 runs.
Well, that was a kind of sort of a defining moment tonight. It's 3-2. The crowd was on their feet, and he delivers a big hit. Everybody's running, and they really got themselves right back in it.
Drilled to deep left field. Reimold won't get it. It's a line drive home run into the left field seats. There's an example of sometimes a line drive will just sail over the fence.
When you hit it like that, they're going to go. Jamie Walker tried to get a fastball in, and Billy just got the hit on it.
So back to a 3-run game. And the batter is Mike Jacobs. 0 for 3, 2 ground balls to second and a strikeout. Long, big sweeping slider from Walker. 1-1 on Jacobs. Home run number 3 for Billy. He's driven in 3 tonight. 16 RBIs on the year. Hit hard, just foul.
Sometimes when you're trying to get the stroke together and you really put it all together and you hit the ball right on the screws and you still just miss foul by a couple inches.
Jacobs with solo home runs on Tuesday and last night in Oakland. And that's up the middle and into center field. And now Jose Guillen comes to the plate, and Jamie Walker is one of those guys. He's going to have a lot of success because of his arm angle against left-hand batters, but righties are going to see him.
They're going to see him really well, and even left-handers. Even though you got that lower arm slot, you got to be able to get the ball to the other side of the plate. And Jamie just really left that ball right out in the middle of the plate for Mike Jacobs.
Jose a single, a ground out to third, and a walk. Only faced Jamie Walker once. No balls, 1 strike. Jamie Walker is talking about how he put his career back together with the Tigers, becoming a sidearm pitcher, and did some refining in spring training this year, working with Mike Cuellar, who was a former Orioles pitcher, successful Orioles pitcher, 20-game winner, and really worked with Jamie Walker on throwing a screwball, which would break away from a right-hand batter. So trying to find a weapon that he could use when he has to face a right-hand batter in a situation like this.
Well, Mike Cuellar was one of the best at it. 20-game winner, like you said, and if he can develop that screwball, remind me, we had a guy here, Steve Mangori, who really threw a good screwball. So it is a valuable pitch to a left-hand if he can develop it. You can almost see Jose just said, I'm not going to worry about the fastball. I'm just going to sit off speed and then trust that I can take the fastball the opposite way.
One ball, 2 strikes. Remember Robert Fick?
Oh, yeah.
It was Robert Fick, of all people, who suggested first to Jamie Walker that he might want to try sidearm. Robert Fick, a left-hand hitter, and spent almost all of his career with the Tigers, and told Jamie, why don't you throw sidearm, because he hated it when left-handed sidearmers came in. Struck him out. So Walker gives up 1 run. Billy Butler with 2 outs and nobody on, belting his 3rd home run of the year. All 5 runs for the Royals tonight, coming with 2 outs. Shot from Melvin Mora. The Royals down by 3. Tien's one error coming last night and led to 5 unearned runs. Sidney Ponson coming on for the 8th inning with the top of the order coming up. Ponson, originally from the Orioles organization. Pitched for the Orioles 2 different times in his career. And when he first came up, he was a hard throwing right-hander with fastball in the mid to upper 90s. He still lives in Fort Lauderdale, where the Orioles have spring training. Signed by the Orioles as a non-drafted free agent back in 1993. Got to the big leagues with the Orioles in '98. He never had a winning season with Baltimore. The best he did was 12-12. And walks Brian Roberts. The Royals have walked 6 tonight. So Roberts is on for the 4th time tonight, bringing up Cesar Izturis, who's had a very productive night. Orioles' number 2 hitter has scored twice, driven in 3. Ponson 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, part of 2003 with Baltimore, then was traded to the Giants. And then that next off season went back to the Orioles, 04 and 05. Since then has pitched for the Cardinals, the Yankees, the Twins, the Rangers, the Yankees again, and now the Royals. He's only going to get 1 out. That was a good reaction by Ponson to get his glove on it. However, looked like Callaspo was there. Might have been an easier play for him.
Yeah, a lot of times the pitchers look around and see where the fielders are playing, but it's more reaction when you're that close to the action. And if one play that he's made before, if he catches the ball cleanly, he's got to play.
That puts Roberts at second with 1 out and brings up Markakis, who, like Izturis, is also driven in 3. 33 runs driven in on the year. And 33 RBIs at the moment is the 3rd highest total in the American League. Jason Bay of Boston has 37, and Evan Longoria, who is languishing through a sophomore slump, has 45 RBIs already.
Well, it's really nice to see these young guys who have come in and have great first years, back it up that next year, and you don't have to talk about sophomore jinx and sophomore slumps. You know, they just go out there and say, I'm a good ball player and I'm going to make it happen, and he's doing a great job.
Gosh, he's hitting .346, 11 home runs, 45 RBIs, 16 doubles. 1 and 2 on Markakis. And that was before tonight's games.
Well, that's true. But Sidney's really trying to get the ball to go down. He went with a nice changeup, and that ball went down real nice. He's throwing sinkers, but they've been in the dirt, so this changeup really stayed up enough and kept Markakis off balance enough that he got it in for a strike. But he's got good plate coverage. He got a nice swing. You can see how his sinker just starting it's really like a ball right out of his hand. They're just not getting enough of the plate to really make it enticing to the hitter. It's a ball right out of his hand.
His stance, Markakis, you talk about his plate coverage. He is both on the plate and off the plate with that wide open stance. Back foot close to the plate, front foot away from the plate. Hit hard to right field. Tien makes the catch. Roberts will tag and advance to third base. Let's take a final look at tonight's You Call It, presented by Sprint. We asked you, where have the Royals had their most success against the Orioles? Municipal Stadium here in KC, Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, Kauffman Stadium or Camden Yards. 36% say Kauffman Stadium, and the answer is you're right, Kauffman Stadium. But losing records in all of those places, that goes back to when the Orioles, didn't the Orioles win something like the first, didn't the Royals lose like their first 20 something games?
Yeah, something like that when it first came into the league.
And then more recently, with both the Royals and the Orioles struggling, Baltimore has had the Royals number. Mentioned last year the Royals beat the Orioles in a game in May. That snapped a 12-game losing streak to Baltimore. In 2007, the Orioles swept the season series 7-0. The Royals scored 12 runs in the 7 games. And the Orioles won last year's season series 5-3. Ponson walks his second in the inning. So 7 walks given up by the Royals tonight. First and third for Melvin Mora, who has walked twice and has driven in a run with a single. Miles an hour and in on the hands of Mora. 0-1.
That's that real good sinker that he wants to throw. That was really a nice pitch right there. But just being able to repeat that pitch and repeat it in the same location, you know, that's been part of the problem.
Tien off his glove, knocks it down. A run will score. And it's 9-5. Or the question is, Frank, you say being able to repeat the pitch, just even trying to repeat the pitch, hard sinker at 94, and then comes back with a breaking ball right out over the plate.
Well, that's why I say pitchers and catchers have to work together and know what's working, and how you can get your outs. And if you throw a pitch that got some good movement to it, the hitter swings over it. You know, sometimes you have to repeat that same pitch. You know, Mark did everything he could really to knock this ball down, and it should show just great quickness at third base.
All right, same situation here. He threw a good hard sinker, and Wigginton swings over the top to make it 0-1. Did the same thing with Mora, but then came back with the slider. This time he backs up the sinker with another good fastball, and it's 0-2.
Well, you got to go with what's working, and if your changeup is not there, and if your sinker's not sinking the way you want it to sink, then you got to figure out what's working. If it's your sinker that's working, then stay with it until they show you need to change. If you got the good fastball, then you stay with that till you know you need to change.
And he's thrown it 3 straight times, so maybe learning the lesson after what happened against Mora.
I think that pitch really is a pitch that Whittington probably didn't think he was going to throw, because he's been going fastball, breaking ball, and fastball off speed with something else, and so when you get in that pattern, that's the way the hitters think. So you go to 0-2, then how often do you get finished off with a fastball?
Not often, at least not today. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
I mean, these hitters look for patterns, and if you don't break the pattern, that's why it's important that the pitcher and the catcher both know when they've got someone beaten with a pitch, and make them change.
And it's the sinker that strikes out Wigginton to end the inning, but the leadoff walk turns into a run. to attract the ladies. And you're also going to attract a bunch of guys who, by the time the night's over, have their shirts off.
No ladies' night in that crowd.
I think the ladies get to the ball game, they kind of stick together and they identify what parts of the stadium they want to visit and what parts they want to avoid, and that's established very early. To Jamie Walker. It's been a tough night for Mark Teahan. 3 ground balls, twice he's hit into a double play. Trey Hillman shaking up the lineup tonight. One of the moves has paid off. Billy Butler batting third is driven in 3, but Mark Teahan moving down to the 6th position is 0 for 4, and Dave Tremblay was leaving Walker in the 8th to face the left-hand hitting Teahan. Now with some switch hitters and righties coming up, it's going to be Jim Johnson. Change, and right-hander Jim Johnson replacing Jamie Walker, who gave up a run in an inning and a third. He gave up Billy Butler's home run. 15 games for Johnson, 15 in the third innings. He's given up 2 home runs, which isn't a big number, but Johnson last year, the number that really stands out for him. And relievers trying to keep the ball down, especially when you pitch at Camden Yards in Baltimore. Johnson did not allow a single home run in 68 2/3 innings. Piaspo 1 out of 3 doubled in the 6th inning. That inning began with some promise when Jose Guillen walked, but then Teahan bounced into a double play. Piaspo doubled, Buck walked. The Orioles were able to get out of that inning without allowing a run, and Piaspo has a 2-hit game. And here's John Buck, a single, a double, a walk, a run scored. Snapping an 0 for 10. He was hitless on the road trip. On the ground to short. Out at second, out at first. The Orioles turn their third double play tonight. Royals down by 4 at the end of 8. Here's what's coming up on Boulevard Royals Live with Joel Goldberg from Rival Sports Bar out in right field. Joel and Jamie will talk about how the Orioles got to Gilmesh. Top of the order with all the offensive production for the Royals. Post-game interviews, a preview of tomorrow night's game with Zach Greinke going up against Adam Eaton. All that and more. Boulevard Royals Live with Joel Goldberg and Jamie Quirk, brought to you by Boulevard Brewing Company, Kansas City's beer. And now Kyle Farnsworth on for the 9th inning. He is the 5th Royals pitcher tonight. Mesh going 4 1/3, gave up 5 runs. Robinson Tejeda gave up 3 runs in an inning and a third. Ron Mayhay, an inning and a third scoreless, and Sidney Ponson, 1 run in 1 inning. Good play by Tien, and throws out Reimold. Tien has been diving around third all night.
Well, it's truly been the hot corner down there, but he looked really smooth on that play right there. He just let his body go right on around with that play and was on his feet and ready to make a nice throw to first base. See, I just let his body kept going, didn't fight it, got back on top. Nice throw.
So Reimold in his first major league game, 1 for 5 with an infield single. And that brings up Greg Zahn, who is 0 for 4. He's after the first pitch. And Callaspo makes him 0 for 5. So 2 down for Felix Pie. Still agree that that's the big hit tonight for the Orioles that got them going?
I agree. I mean, to me, it was a hustle play, and after that play, everything sort of went downhill for the Royals. That's why I say you get guys like Felix Pie, who has all his speed and been swinging down on the end of the bat for most of his career and struggling offensively. To me, I would just say, hey, give me a bat, choke up, try to put it in play and use my speed, make myself a lot more valuable on the offensive side.
Shallow left field. Aviles making the play. Farnsworth has a 1-2-3-9. Royals down by 4. 9-1-2 coming up. Girls' night at the K, and the gals having a good time. That celebration began hours before first pitch. It'll be Aviles, Crisp, and DeJesus against right-hander Jim Johnson, who came on with one out in the 8th inning, gave up a single to Cayaspo, got bucked to hit into a double play. One ball, one strike on Aviles, 0 for 3. He has scored a run. And his average now dipping below 200. He lost a hit in the 3rd inning, lining one to right that was played by Markakis, and Markakis able to throw out John Buck at second base. So turned a hit into a fielder's choice, and now the fly ball to center field. He is 0 for 4 tonight. And that brings up Coco Crisp. On base twice. He scored 2 runs. He's had an RBI, and as we previewed Boulevard Royals Live, the Royals production coming from the first 3 hitters. Crisp, 2 runs scored, a run driven in. DeJesus has driven in a run, and Billy Butler, who's batting 3rd tonight, has homered, and he has driven in 3. Great play at first by Huff. Well, the hot corner for most of the night has been at third base, but that was a hot corner type play, and Aubrey Huff actually came up to the big leagues as a third baseman, so he's seen bullets like that his entire career.
I know when you get a ball hit that hard, you got to have a good beat on it, and really he did a good job of getting it off to his left side and catching on the long hop. You see how he just shifted his feet just slightly so he can get the ball on the side, and that's what made him see that ball longer and gave a chance to make that play.
And coming off the bat of a left-hand hitter, that had a little hook to it as well.
Right. Now, a lot of times when first baseman get locked in and don't move at all, then that ball plays them and it gets by. But you can just see him just quickly just shuffle his feet and to get into a good fielding position so you can see that hop a lot longer.
0-2 on DeJesus. Doubled home a run in the 3rd inning. Walked in the 5th, which led to Billy Butler's 2-run single. One ball, 2 strikes. Jeremy Guthrie will win his 3rd game of the year if Johnson can finish off the Royals. Allowed 4 runs, 6 hits in 5 innings. Off the thumbs and right on the line in left field. Well, there's still hope with 2 outs in the 9th inning, but even if the Royals fall short, this could be the game that gets David DeJesus back on a roll.
Well, sometimes you can't really be afraid to get jammed, and you can't be afraid to let the ball get deep and try to take it the other way. And David didn't try to pull his ball, so he's really trying to work hard on going the other way and staying on top of the ball. So you're right. It always takes a hit like that. Come out tomorrow, it's a whole new day for you. But the Royals really need for David DeJesus to get going.
2nd double tonight, 7 on the year. And the decision tonight to bat Billy Butler 3rd has paid off. Probably will see him there again tomorrow with a home run and 3 RBIs. Johnson misses inside.
Well, it's back in the 7th inning. Jamie Walker tried to get inside with a fastball, and Billy was waiting there for him. And that ball wasted no time getting out of here.
Yeah, very poor hang time.
You don't have time to describe those. You can't say here's a long fly ball.
No. Line drive gone. Royals still need 2 more base runners for a chance. balls, no strikes.
Now this is the part of the game where it really frustrates the manager. You go in the ninth inning with a comfortable lead. You just want to go in and throw strikes, make the team put the ball in play, and you have to struggle and get another guy up in the bullpen. That's not a good sign.
George Sherrill appears to be ready and would come on, it appears, if Butler reaches to face Mike Jacobs, a left-hand batter waiting on deck. Three balls, two strikes. So Billy, who went the entire road trip through Anaheim and Oakland with just one RBI, coming up with 3 tonight. Gives him 16. Mike Jacobs, who waits on deck, leads the Royals with 21 this year. And Butler third. John Buck has 17 runs driven in. Up the middle is Turris, who's had a good night at shortstop, finishes off the game by throwing out Billy Butler. And the Baltimore Orioles taking game 1 of 4 tonight, 9-5. So the Royals' troubles continue against the Baltimore Orioles. That was the case in the Royals' first season